It's fast-paced, it's rigorous, it's very verbal, and it's demanding. Harvard. No other school has the same level of clout. The global brand recognition of this institution is unmatched, let's be honest. So of course, it's one of the most sought after business school programs, receiving 9,000 to 10,000 applications every year and accepting only about 10% of that number. Do you see yourself in one of HBS's large case study classes, waiting to be cold called by one of your world-class professors? Or taking a picture in front of this sign and posted it on LinkedIn saying, I'm so grateful to be a part of the HBS class of 20 whatever. Okay, how do you make all of that happen, especially as an international? Let's get into that in this video. We'll go over that in 3 parts. What HBS looks for, what the application requirements are, and 3 tips for internationals. What does HBS look for? HBS students share 3 traits: a habit of leadership, analytical aptitude and appetite, and engaged community citizenship. To quote Chad Loss, Managing Director of MBA Admissions and Financial Aid from 2016 to 2022, he says, at the highest level, we are looking for people who come from all different backgrounds. You've studied different things, you've worked in different places, but in common, we're looking for people who are interested in leadership, who are analytically strong and curious, and people who are community-minded. So in evaluating your candidacy, the admissions committee looks at your application to look for those 3 traits. So let's talk about each of them in detail. The first, the habit of leadership. The admissions committee is looking at your leadership at any scale, really. So from college extracurriculars to personal, professional, community leadership experiences. And the use of the word habit is intentional. So HBS isn't looking at just a one-time thing. Habit is a way of being. It's a part of who you are. It's also something that you do actively. It's action on your part. That gives you a sense of what the admissions committee is looking for when they're reading your application. Second is analytical aptitude and appetite. So there's no minimum test score or GPA required to get into HBS, but the admissions committee looks at those, your transcripts, any extra courses you've taken, your professional experiences, to gauge your ability to handle the quantitative nature of the course load at HBS. And that's really because at HBS, and if you're international, this might be different from the culture that you're in. If it was more lecture style, the HBS learning style, the classroom style, is case-based. You're given a written case study, several pages long with data, sometimes with charts, to digest and then have a conversation with your learning team and then discuss in class. It's fast-paced, it's rigorous, it's very verbal, and it's demanding. So the admissions board wants to admit students who will not only be able to add something to the class, but who will thrive in this kind of environment. That is, they have the appetite for this kind of environment. And then the third, engaged community citizenship. Harvard is very intentional with the words that they use and very direct and clear, right? Ethical standards, positive contributions, respect for others. Those are some of the themes that they look for with this trait. There's also an expectation of a spirit of collaboration, sharing and also supporting others. Notice that similar to the first trait, this is more about who you are than what you do. It's not about community service, but intentional, sustained participation in a group or community that you have citizenship or some sort of identification with. The admissions committee looks for these traits to see what you would bring to HBS, what kind of a community member you'll be, and what your potential is after you graduate from the school. These are the things that matter to the admissions board. Now that you know that, it helps, when you're working on your application to, as you're doing that, take some time to take a step back and put yourself in the shoes of the AdCom and think about the type of person that they want to add into this class that they are building. So now that you know what HBS looks for, how do you show it to them? and that's through the application. So let's cover the application requirements. HBS, unlike most other schools, only has 2 application rounds. Round 1's deadline is in early September, with decisions coming out in early December. Round 2's deadline is in early January, with decisions coming out in late March. The application materials are like most other schools. You need your transcripts, undergraduate and graduate if that applies. The admissions board says that there is no minimum GPA requirement, but they do explicitly say that their students have strong undergraduate records. And I think that that's laudable, because some schools will say no minimum GPA requirement, but not be super clear about the fact that poor academic performance is truly a weakness in your application. But let's look at the other parts of the application that if your undergraduate GPA is a weakness, you can use as a strength potentially. So you have your GMAT or GRE. HBS does not offer waivers for those, and also has no preference of any one test over the other. HBS accepts the online version of both tests, and they're also explicit about there being no minimum requirement to apply. What's interesting is that HBS shares their GMAT and GRE range, but not their GPA range, just the average GPA, which as of most recently is a 3.7 on a 4.0 scale. So in evaluating trait 2 of quantitative aptitude and appetite, there's more leeway in how they look at standardized test scores than how they look at undergraduate records. English language tests for internationals, if your undergrad institution wasn't solely taught in English, then you'll need to take an English language test. So that's the TOEFL, the IELTS, the PTE, or the Duolingo English test. You need a resume, and that's a standard business resume. You can get a free MBA resume template on my website. And for HBS, you need a minimum of 2 years of work experience to be competitive in the application process. The admissions board uses your resume as a roadmap to guide them as they read the rest of your application. You can go over to the guide, AT MBA Admissions Tips, to get tips on how to build the best MBA resume that you can. And that guide comes with an accountability workbook to keep you on track of your entire application process. There's activities, awards, and recognition. This is a part of the online application, and you can also include it in your resume. Sarah Lucas, who oversees evaluation for the MBA admissions team, this is what she says of extracurriculars. Many strong applicants have common extracurriculars, but they pursue them with uncommon purpose or persistence. Purpose or persistence. And this goes back to the themes of what HBS looks for. It's about ways of being, not one-off things that you've done or you are doing. Last-minute activities won't cut it. A bunch of random shallow activities won't cut it. Here you have the space to share 3 extracurriculars, but 1 or 2 meaningful ones, even ones from college, will be enough here. You also have the space to list 3 of the most meaningful awards in this section and the context around how the awards are chosen. This section is really an opportunity for the admissions board to get to know what's important to you outside of work. So be intentional about what you want to communicate here and how you go about doing that. Employment. Now this is in the online parts of the application, and it should not be a repeat of your resume. This is an opportunity to go more in depth and be more reflective of your work experience. You share details about your roles and responsibilities, how your role fits in with the broader organization, some significant accomplishments, and key challenges. Remember that the resume is more like a roadmap. Then this gives more detail and goes more in depth on your professional experience. Post MBA goals. Let's take a moment and acknowledge that plans change. You go to business school and you learn new things and you want new things. That is entirely expected. So in this section, don't feel caged to what you write. Think about, based on where you're at now, who you are, what you know, what do you hope for? What are your aspirations? What would you like to do immediately after and long-term following your graduation from HBS? Why is this next step of coming to HBS so important in your career journey? There are no expected or preferred answers. Be authentic and make it make sense to your overall story. The essay. HBS has just one essay question, and it's been the same for years. As we review your application, what more would you like us to know as we consider your candidacy for the Harvard Business School MBA program? It's a very broad question by design, and the admissions committee's guidance is to not overthink, not overcraft, and not overwrite. With the essay, you have the opportunity to tell your story in a way that demonstrates some of those traits that the school looks for. What more is key here? Don't re-spit out your resume. Think about what has already been answered on other parts of the application and what hasn't been shared yet that will help the admissions board actually get to know you, your values, your motivations, your goals. The direction you take here will really come down to you and your story. Really take your time with this part of the application. Get expert support, revise and edit. And even though the word limit is 900 words, don't push it if you don't need to. Let it be that everything that you write is meaningful. And then you have recommendations. HBS asks for 2 of these, and they don't explicitly say that one needs to be from a direct supervisor. But those are usually the best recommendations, so try for that first. And you can also check out the video on recommendation tips for strategies for that part of the application. And there's an application fee and an opportunity to apply for a fee waiver if that fee is a financial burden for you. And don't worry, admissions to HBS is need blind, meaning that they don't evaluate your financial status when they're evaluating your candidacy for the program. And the application for the fee waiver is reviewed by a different team, not the admissions board. Interviews. Okay, you may be invited to interview, which congratulations. Hey, the HBS interview is 30 minutes long, in person, either on campus or one of their hubs, or online via Zoom. And it's conducted by a member of the admissions board who has reviewed your application. So you want to make sure that you are fully versed with the material that you submitted, because the interview is custom tailored to you with specific questions based on your application. It is fast-paced and high pressure. You may be asked up to 30 questions in that half-hour time frame. The point is not to over-prepare though. It's to get to a place of thoughtfulness, conciseness of communication, and on-the-spot thinking and processing, which are all attributes that you will need in the HBS classroom anyway. Now, after the interview, you'll be required to submit a post-interview reflection. This is also an HBS classic. You'll be required to submit this written reflection within 24 hours after your interview. It's a 300 to 450 word essay, and HBS is clear that you're not to receive outside guidance on this exercise. They don't review this as a formal essay, more like a reflection after like a work meeting. If you go through the interview process, you receive detailed instructions afterwards. But here are some things that you want to be mindful of. You want to be thoughtful about your experience, thankful for the opportunity, reflective about what you may not have gotten to share, what you may have wanted to say differently, what you were surprised by or excited to talk about, and also reinforcing your passion for HBS and for potentially attending. Okay, so let's talk about 3 tips for internationals applying to HBS. Number 1, reflect first. Everything in your business school application should be intentional. Even more so for your HBS application. Don't just jump into crafting responses and highlighting your accomplishments. Take the time to reflect on the overall story you want to tell the admissions board. Think about the picture you want to paint for them and do that first before you dive into the details. 2, get specific. One of the challenges to overcome as an international is the gravitas of the HBS brand. It's not even close to enough to say you want to go to HBS because it's HBS. You need to get specific into why going to HBS is an important part now of your career journey. Your why HBS needs to be personal, specific, and strategic. 3, practice, practice, practice. The HBS interview will likely be very different than any other interview you've done. Practice. Get familiar with everything that you submitted. Leverage resources online or get support from an expert to run mock interviews. It's like the MBA Olympics. Train like a champ. Business school is a massive investment, and the application process is as well, of your time and your money. Don't wait till the last minute. Don't half-heart it. With a brand like HBS on your resume, you will unlock doors and have lifetime access to uncommon opportunities. If you would like support with your application process, get in touch. You can request a free consultation with me to get advice on your MBA goals and your candidacy, and to explore custom packages to support you in your process. I hope this video has been helpful. Leave a comment if you have any questions, and make sure to subscribe so you're notified of new videos. Till next time, take care.